Hi everyone, this is Koinzell here. So today we're going to do the video to talk about whether Baal or Raiden Shogun is worth pulling at C0. So this was the top second voted in the poll that I did recently. So thanks everyone for participating in the poll. So first off, you see here that there's two set of figures. Basically, I'm comparing Baal with Yoimiya. Now the reason why I compare Baal with Yoimiya is number one, Yoimiya, although a lot of people trash on her, she does have decent DPS, single target. And the other thing is, for Yoimiya, I have already done the math previously, so it's much easier for me to do a comparison using the math I've done previously. It's as simple as that. Okay. Also the reason why I'm not doing for, I don't know, Hu Tao or Dilute, etc. Now, the source of the figures is simply from the math that I did previously. So for Yoimiya, we have the Hamayumi stats. I already changed the CR and CD from 60 and 180 to 50 and 140 because I'm trying to make a more realistic representation, so to speak. So the damage figure that we got with the VIP is actually here. I did do a damage figure with Lava Walkers before I changed it to Crimson Witch here. Okay, and then we have the Baal catch using the catch. Also 50 CR, 140 CD, 200 ER, and these are the damage figures. The red figures are the one that we'll be using this video. So let me go back to the comparison itself. That's just this a quick show of how the figures are derived, the source of the figures basically. Now you see this is the initial hit on Baal for the 8.9k, and for 1C is 48k. You have Yoimiya here with a 4-piece Lava Walker instead of Shiminawa since it conflicts with Hamayumi, so 49k. Then you have 82k with Vaporize and 4-piece Crimson Witch. This is assuming that we can Vaporize on 3rd and 5th hit. I don't have a Xingqiu that's below C6, so I can't confirm whether or not you need a C6 Xingqiu to proc the Vaporize on Yoimiya instead. Because for me, I have a C6 Xingqiu and I can indeed proc. And previously, based on some of the math that was shared, right, C6 Xingqiu is required. So I'm not sure after the actual game is, after the actual Yoimiya release, whether or not it's required. I have not really checked on that, so I apologize for that. But either way, this is just to show you guys a more realistic comparison. And just bear in mind that this is not trying to trash whichever character. This is just an objective comparison. So let's look at the summary of the damage figures, because this is still split, right, into the specific attack cycle for Yoimiya and then the initial hit and for 1C. So this is what the damage looks like in 7 seconds. So 7 seconds of burst, we get 145k plus 19.6k from the elemental skill of Baal. That's about 164 or 165k. For Yoimiya, if you don't use Vaporize, you use Lava Walkers with Hamayumi, you get about 116k. If you use Crimson Witch with Vaporize, you get 192k. Okay, so like I said, I'm not 100% sure whether C6 Xingqiu is required for this. If not, then F2P Yoimiya is only at this level if you're using Hamayumi. Obviously, if you're using other bows like Rust, it would be much better, because other than Rust being better than Hamayumi, you also have Shiminawa being better than 4-piece Lava Walkers. Okay, so those are just some of the conditions or points to note. But more importantly, if you look at the differences in damage, I'll say Baal is not too far off, and more importantly, there are no reactions included above for Baal, whereas I have a Vaporize here. I honestly didn't feel it was fair to Baal, since I considered Vaporize for Yoimiya. I didn't consider EC reaction damage. But EC reaction damage is a bit much, how should I put it? It will complicate things a lot if I try to explain it here. But what I want to bring out is that this is not really full Yoimiya, because there's a secondary character providing the Vaporize. So what if I talk about EC? I just briefly talk about EC, which is Electro Charge. In 7 seconds, you're able to do 14 ticks or a single target, and it's actually 14 times 4 on each target if the 4 targets are in range of Electro Charge, in range of each other. 4 targets close enough to each other to proc Electro Charge on each other. That's why the 14 hits can be multiplied by 4. And this is the damage that is applied to each target. This is the reason why Electric Charge is actually the best reaction to work with Swirl. So, even if Baal may not have EM, she will be a great enabler for easy reactions with Swirl. And you can refer to my Kazuha math video for the damage figures. I'll put a link in the top right corner and also in the description. The damage figure is very respectable when you have a full EM Kazuha. But even if you do not have a full EM Baal, right? And let's say Baal is the one that procs the damage, although Swirl will definitely continue to proc. The electric charge damage is about 1.7k, 1.7 plus k. Multiply that by 14 is actually almost hitting this figure. So even in the worst case scenario, if Baal is the one always proccing instead of the Swirl, but most of the time it should be the Swirl that's proccing, you are still matching it with the electric charge. Alright, I want to state this, not everything has to be Pyro, Hydro, Cryo for like the absolute best build. Other elements, other reactions, if they do enough damage, it's still gonna be pretty fun, right? In the end, the game is not just about those 3 elements. You should try to have an open mind and enjoy the other elements like Electro, for example. Okay, now anyway, on to the next point. Although F2P, not everyone can get R5 Hamayumi, because even after 9 months of my main account, I only have 3 bow bullets to date. I don't know whether I'm extremely unlucky or not, but yeah. So I did an R5 calculation here, but even I myself, 9 months into the game, I do not have R5. But to be fair, R5 catch may also be dependent on RNG in terms of catching the rarer fish too. We don't know yet, right? Because it's not released. We don't know how rare the fish is, the one with the lowest number required in order to get the catch, as well as the refinement materials for the catch. We don't know how rare that is. I'm hoping it's not so bad that after 9 months we still won't be able to get R5 catch. That's my hope anyway. 9 months of constantly playing fishing, doing the minimum required to complete fishing every day. I'm pretty sure, or rather I'm hoping, I should have said pretty sure, I'm hoping MiHoYo doesn't prove me wrong on this and that we can still get R5 catch in without it being so bad like the billets. Okay. Okay, now I actually briefly talked about this during the introduction about the comparison between Baal and Yoimiya, but I'll say it again. Although a lot of people say Yoimiya is trash, it's mainly because of single target. It is acknowledged that she does a very good single target DPS, so doing this comparison is okay. It shows that Baal has decent damage. And if you include EC, let's say I'll be fair, let's say I say half of it is proc by Swirl, half of it proc by Baal. Baal will outdo her damage here in the EC setup, and Baal can do AoE too. I know that people will complain that I shouldn't use Yoimiya because Yoimiya has ICD, but the only reason why she has ICD is because she attacks very fast, right? If you think about it, Hu Tao kinda procs vaporize at the same rate, but the difference is that Hu Tao's attack itself is at that rate. That's why Hu Tao is so broken, right? But I believe there are already comparison videos showing that Yoimiya can still do better than Hu Tao in certain areas. So anyway, this is just a caveat. This is the main thing about me bringing out this point is to show that Baal's damage is pretty decent, since Yoimiya is supposed to be a good, very good single target DPS, which is what this figure is about, is where she excels. Okay, other than a DPS role, Baal also has a universal battery role that allows team member to drop some ER stats in exchange for more DPS stats. So what do I mean by this? Okay, let me go in-game just to do a quick show. Alright, this is my Eula. Right now my Eula are using some artifacts that allow her to get 136.9% ER. You actually need 140% ER on Eula so that her burst has a more or less constant uptime. For me, I don't have 140, but 136.9 is close enough with a battery, with a cryo battery. Crit rate is at 50.1%, crit damage is at 204.2%, attack is at 2.5k. But if I use Baal, with Baal's energy restoration, I'm actually able to, I should be able to, I mean we have not tested it out, we don't know how exactly it's like, but I believe it should be able to allow us to drop the ER and go for pure damage artifacts, which in the case of my Eula, which has a perfect example, she's a perfect example that I can show here because I happen to have the two different type of permutations in terms of artifact available, one with ER, one without. So without having to invest in ER, you see my ER is 100%, my crit rate goes up by 9%, my crit damage goes up by 20%. That's a very, very respectable DPS boost. Attack is also increased slightly. Attack is at 2568 compared to 2507 earlier. So not a huge difference, but there is still that difference, yeah? So what I want to bring across is the point that the thing about being a universal battery for Baal, or rather Baal being a universal battery, is the fact that she also allows you to optimize your artifact stats. Of course, optimizing for artifacts is, how should I put it, is artifact farming is required as well, and it's RNG hell, we all know that, okay? But if your characters are already built without ER and maximize for DPS instead, you'll find that they will have a good burst uptime. And this is what I'm going to talk about the next point, or rather the next part of this point. Right, so the next part of this point is this. If your characters do not have, okay, hang on. Sorry, it's a bit wonky on the SL. Its recording button is the button I use, the hotkey I use for recording always gets it always interferes with the Excel. So I have to be careful when I do resume my video or recording, I mean. Okay, now this is the point I wanted to talk about. If your characters don't have sufficient ER for 100% burst uptime right now, then she will enable almost 100% burst uptime for your team. And to help elaborate a bit more on the energy restoration, I have a table here which I'll talk about shortly, but first I want to talk about this next sub-point, which is a universal battery also means that you do not need to swap to the character that you want energy. Because if you know how battery works right now, using Eula as an example again, let's say you use Eula to hit, use your burst, your energy is not 100% right now, you can switch to either Diona or Rosaria, you cast their elemental skill, they get energy particles. Before the energy particles are received by the character, you switch to Eula to receive the energy particles. That's how a battery works, regardless of what element. A universal battery, in her case, she gives the energy restoration immediately when she does her hit in her burst stance, up to a maximum of 5 hits. So it means that you don't need to swap the character that you want, which is, in my opinion, a very nice added convenience. In most times, if you manage your battery well, this is not too much of an issue. You don't lose DPS or anything per se. Although if you mess up a bit, sometimes it would. But not having to swap to that character that you want energy is, no matter, it's still a nice added convenience because you don't need to look out for the energy particles or the energy orbs. You just get it. Okay, you just get the energy. Now let's talk about her energy restoration figures. At 200% ER, she's able to restore 20 in the 5 hits. 250% ER is 23.75, 300% ER is 27.5. Now to help provide some perspective, Electro Traveler gives 12 energy to one team member, provided you use the skill at point blank range and you move to pick up the amulets. I actually used Electro Traveler initially, I think in the first few days of exploring Inazuma. The cons about the Electro Traveler skill, I'm very, very well aware of it, which is the fact that you have to use her skill at melee point blank range, otherwise it's very hard to get 3 amulets. And you also have some DPS loss because once you switch to the character that you want the energy, you have to move to get the amulets, and sometimes if there's a mob blocking your way, more time is going to be wasted. Especially a big mob. So it's not all peachy per se. But if you think, but right now, even with all these cons, right, Electro Traveler does do a pretty good job as a battery. That I think I can agree on that. And I think most people will agree on that, at least people who have used the Electro Traveler. So if you think the Electro Traveler does a good battery role, imagine 20 to 27.5 energy, which is almost double of what the Electro Traveler does, but to every team member, not just one. Your skill does not affect the energy restoration. You don't need. It's not a difference between 1 amulet to 3 amulets or 4 energy to 12 energy. Okay, and there's no DP loss in moving to pick stuff up too, because you don't need to switch to another character that you want to get energy and move around and pick stuff up. That's a very important point. Okay, that's a very important point. You don't. It's a bit, in my opinion, it's a bit DPS loss when you're moving to pick up stuff. And on top of that, you need to make sure that you use and make sure that there's 3 amulets. And it's only half the energy that Baal gives. Of course, you might say that it's not fair for me to compare it with Traveler against Baal, for a F2P character versus a 5-star featured character. But that's not the point, right? The point is to compare the battery function or the universal battery function that the two of them does. I initially did a video talking about how comparing Electro Traveler to Xingqiu. I think Electro Traveler is good, but I already expected that Archon will be a stronger version of the Electro Traveler. If you notice, so far, the Archons are always a stronger version of the Traveler. It's the case for Anemo Traveler, it's the case for Geo Traveler. There are some similarities like putting down constructs for the Geo part, and for the Anemo part, there's the CC. Okay, so there are some clues to be inferred whenever you look at how the specific element of the Traveler will be like. So this is just a little tip that I'm sharing. So in future, for the next region, people are saying that Sumeru, right, and there is Dendro. So when we see Dendro Traveler, then we will be able to expect how the Dendro Archon function will be like. Okay, so anyway, this is the whole point about Baal as a universal battery role. I think she's very good. She's much better than the Electro Traveler. So if you think the Electro Traveler does a good battery role, Baal definitely does a much better one. But there is one important point to note, which is that Electro Traveler does give you 40% ER to that one team member that received the 12 energy as well, if the Electro Traveler has 200% ER. So what this means is that once you use Electro Traveler for that, and you use that character that you want to get the energy max up, if you use their skill, they will also get more energy. But it's not that big of an issue or a difference, because this is a lot of energy. Okay, this is a lot of energy that Baal is giving. It more than compensates for this 40% ER, and not to mention it gives to every team member. I can't stress this enough, man. Traveler is only one. This is every team member. Okay, every team member. Okay, I'm gonna start that. So yeah, her universal battery role is something that I don't see her getting replaced by any other new characters in future, because that's her selling point as an Archon, right? Now, other than DPS role, other than universal battery role, there's one more thing that she can do, which is elemental skill. Her elemental skill provides her burst damage bonus to the entire team, and these are the bonuses that you can expect. For 80 energy burst characters like say Sayu, Sara, Beidou, Xingqiu, you get a 24% bonus if your elemental skill is at level 9. You get a 21.6% bonus if your Baal elemental skill is level 6. 60 energy burst characters, you get 18. Level 6, you get 16.2. 40 energy burst character, you get a 12% increase. Level 6, you get a 10.8. So this, while giving a very good boost to the entire team, which by the way is almost like a 2-piece no-piece effect to the entire team, because most of the time you will be using 60 energy or 80 energy characters, especially if you're trying to synergize with Baal. You can use a 40 energy character. One popular 40 energy burst character would be Zhongli with his Meteor. which happens to be my gameplay video here. So anyway, it's not that great to utilize Zhongli with Baal, but it's not the end of the world. Come on, Zhongli still gives very good utility. So even if his energy is low and it doesn't synergize that well with Baal, if you use one other 80 energy character and another Electro 80 energy character, you still are able to get max resolve stats just from casting burst at C1. But at C0, yes, you get lesser, but that's the whole difference between C0 and C1, right? The DPS is lesser because of the resolve stats, but I already done all the damage figures for C0. For C0 without the max stats, so you guys can take reference on that and you can decide for yourself whether the damage at C0 is something that you are happy with. In fact, this already assumes that there's no max stats. Okay, this is calculated based on a 60-80-80. Okay, this is calculated based on 60-80-80, which is the amount of energy burst that the other three characters other than Baal has. Alright, 60-80-80. So anyway, so other than providing a universal battery roll, she even provides burst damage as well. That's like a 2-piece Noblesse effect to the entire team. So this gives her further utility beyond just DPS. So to conclude, even at C0, I'll say Baal is pretty good as a DPS. You can see the figure earlier, and if I factor in EC, etc. Do check out the Kazuha math video to see how great EC is with Sword. Now it's not broken like Baal is not broken like Ganyu or Hu Tao though, because Baal obviously is not a full. Her design is not just as a DPS character, so obviously she can't be as broken as Ganyu or Hu Tao. Not to mention these two are Liyue characters. While being a DPS role, she still can provide an universal battery function and a burst buff. What this means is that if she gets power creep by other new DPS characters, say a year later, who knows if you're still playing Genshin by then, her universal battery function and burst buff will still be very useful in my opinion. So I want to say good luck in pulling for her if you want to, and I hope you get Sara as well, because she's one of the best support for Baal in my opinion. Attack buff, 80 energy burst, and she has high burst damage by the way. So this 24% burst damage bonus is going to be even better on Sara. And her C6, oh my god, it gives 60% crit damage to Electro characters that have received her attack buff. It's pretty much designed for Baal. She's like the ultimate support for Baal. So yeah, I hope you guys get Sara. And I probably should have mentioned this in my previous video when we talk about whether to pull for further Constellations or to pull for R1 Engulfing. One very good reason to pull for the Constellations is also to get C6 Sara. And I have to thank the comment section of the previous video where I have viewers pointing it out. Viewers, I mean, remember the name, 0E0 as well as Pyongyos, both of you commented and pointed out about pulling for more constellations of Baal and trying to get C6 Sara at the same time. That's actually a very good point that I should have mentioned in my previous video. It's just that I did the math for these two together, and when I put the point here, I kind of forget to put it here because it's already on one part of my math. So that's on me anyway. But I just wanted to reiterate that point, which is that C6 Sara is also another good reason to pull for more constellations on Baal. But that's more specific to the previous video. And while trying to pull for Baal C0, let's say you're not close to soft PT, I do hope that you get as many Sara constellations as you can. And best of luck in pulling for Baal if you want to. And I hope definitely you get as many Sara constellations as well. In fact, on my F2P account, I just got like 3 Diona constellations in 20 pulls on the current banner, the Yoimiya banner. So that's good for me because freeze comp is actually one of my main comp on my F2P account right now. So Diona getting 3 more constellations is more than welcome. In fact, I'm tempted to pull again to try to get C6 because those 3 constellations brought me to C5. Alright, so thanks everyone for watching. I hope the content has been helpful to you guys, and if you like the content, remember to like and subscribe for more. And I hope this video shows you what I think about whether C0 is worth pulling too. I'll say the resounding yes. So yeah, I'll see you guys next video. Bye.